Hello, good morning. Welcome everybody to this second European Congress of Family-Friendly Municipalities organized by the European Network of Family-Friendly Municipalities, which is promoted by the European Large Families Confederation and the Agency for the Family of the Province Autonomy of Trento in Italy. This network started only a few years ago in 2018. We presented this initiative at the headquarters of the European Economic and Social Committee. Only in these 3 years, we have organized several conventions of municipalities. The network has been growing a lot. We are almost 70 European municipalities members of this platform to share good practices, to learn how to improve our policies supporting families, policies that after and during this pandemic, because coronavirus, then it's very important. It's more important maybe than before to support families in these moments of pandemic. Then we have a very interesting panel of experts to talk about a lot of topics, housing, energy, many topics to help our municipalities to do better this support for families, for children, and for everybody. I would like to give the floor to welcome the participants and to introduce this second European Congress to Regina Maroncelli, the President of the European Large Families Confederation and also the President of the European Network of Family-Friendly Municipalities. Good morning, Regina, buongiorno.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you, Raul, for the wonderful introduction. And thank you, everybody. Thank you to the attendees. Thank you to the speakers. As Raul well said, we have a wonderful program with many speakers. I think they are wonderful and very interesting. So as Raul said, I'm the president of the Large Family Confederation. And why we speak about a family-friendly municipality network. This is not a project only for large families, but we consider ourselves as big brothers of all families, thinking that potentially every family can be, if they want, if they desire, can be in the proper condition, a large family. They can become that if they wish, of course. So this is what moved us to creating this network in 2018 with the autonomous province of Trento. They had this very good project going on. They have experienced it for over 10 years. They had results. It was not something that just a label, just something to say, well, I'm family friendly, that's it. But it was a real changing in the city, in the municipality. It was a way to introduce family-friendly policies that would enhance the well-being of the citizens, starting from the most vulnerable, children, elderly, families with small children, with more small children. So we loved this project because it's simple, it is effective, it is a kind of a model, but it is a tailor suit. Every municipality can draw its own family plan with those characteristics that are proper to them and with all the measures that they really need. So you don't really have to do something that is not for you, but it is really something that is able to cope with your necessity and your needs. So the network is growing, even too much in a way, because we realize that as it is growing, we should provide municipalities more and more knowledge and tools, especially now with the pandemic. the necessities of families have changed. Now, what made a family-friendly municipality before, things like changing nappings place, a breastfeeding point, or things like this, are not so important now. Now problems have become more acute and need a different approach. But the focus should always stay on the well-being of families, which is very much endangered, as we have seen from the statistic of the uneasiness of young people and people at home. So now we will introduce several topics in this day. I would really recommend to follow them because they would give a very broad image of what can a family-friendly municipality do and be for their citizens. I want to just to tell you something. I was very recently in Trento for the convention for the family festival they organized, and what was said there, and it's evidence-based, is that municipalities that were member of the network and had this approach managed to face the very difficult moments, the first very difficult moments of the pandemic crisis easily. I mean, more easily than others, because they had already a very strong network of stakeholders. They were used to work together for the same goals. So this proved us that this project is a good one and can be useful now because of these crises, can be useful in a Pacific when there are not such big problems, and can be useful to face the demographic crisis and challenges we are facing now in Europe, and maybe not only in Europe. So I give the floor back to Raul. Thank you so again for following us, and have a nice and interesting day.
Thank you very much, Regina. Then I'd like now to welcome Mr. Csaba Borboly. Csaba Borboly is a member of the Commission for Social Policy, Education, Employment, Research and Culture, the SEDEC Commission of the European Committee of Regions. The European Committee of Regions has a lot to related with our initiative with the European Family-Friendly Municipalities, because family policies are carried on by municipalities, by regions, and by national governments. Then, Mr. Csaba, from this commission, welcome and good morning.
Good morning for everybody, and thank you for the invitation. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your invitation to speak at the second Congress of the European Network of Family-Friendly Municipalities. In the European Committee of the Regions, we are focusing on the local and regional dimension of the EU policies, a dimension often overlooked when it comes to the preparing policies and programs aiming social support, inclusion and protection. Your Congress today is a great opportunity to raise awareness on the crucial role of families in all aspects of the EU policies. We at the COR certainly recognize importance that the families have when designing and implementing successful social policies. The European Union is facing on increasingly aging population and severe demographic challenges. For example, the median age in the EU 28 has risen from 38 years to approximately 43 years in just 16 years. Furthermore, in 2000, 2004, there were for the first time ever as many elderly people as children in the EU. In October 2020, the COR adopted the opinion on demographic change, where we made a strong call to all stakeholders to financially invest in provide meaningful incentives in order to keep families and young people in their regions of origin. There are several ways we can reverse demographic trends, such as controlled migration, improving infrastructure, providing better services. But at the end of the day, the nucleus of demographic policies has to be the families that reside in affected regions. Family-friendly policies have to begin with a proper work-life balance. That is why the COR adopted in 2017 its opinion on the topic that influenced the directive on work-life balance for parents and careers. The opinion highlights that work-life balance may contribute to both increasing employment rates and higher fertility rates, and we have asked for several improvements to be made, such as expanding parental leave, guaranteeing work-life balance privileges to people who are employed in atypical forms of employment, etc. Also, in order to further promote the European pillar of social rights, the COR has adopted a number of opinions related to the pillar's principles, such as child guarantee and eradicating homelessness, etc. And finally, the COR participated in the Porto Social Summit in May 2021, where the action plan for the implementation of the pillar was reaffirmed. The recent and ongoing pandemic brought forward a number of issues that families had to face: the need to family-friendly policies, such as paid paternal leave, paid sick leave, affordable children care, decent wages, and child benefits provided from the government has never before been more acute. It is important, however, to underline that the recovery and cohesion funds are mainly targeted and implemented in national level. Policies at national level are indeed beneficial for the development of family-friendly municipalities. But it is undeniable that the regions and cities are the pillars where social and family policies are better designed, implemented, and monitored. As we all witnessed during the pandemic, regions and cities were the first responders in times of crisis, often with little or not support from the national government. My region in Romania, Harghita County Council, where I am the president, is a family-friendly region that is worthily represented in tourism by the family-friendly brand. For example, in 2020, Harghita County Council together launched the Visit Harghita Family-Friendly campaign, to which accommodation places and restaurants have joined. Last year, we have given a number 52 family-friendly certificates, of which 33 for accommodation places and 19 for restaurants. In 2021, Visit Harghita family-friendly range has been expanded under the mark of quality excellence as well. Tourists are more likely to choose accommodation, restaurants, and hopefully services in the near future, which have been already recognized as a mark of quality excellence. Besides tourism, our region focuses on family support from all other areas, as well as keeping tradition alive, reduction the effects of the brain drain and workforce migration, helping students in language barriers issues, supporting local farmers, producers to have income in Harghita. And we have grants for the associations who working together with families in Harghita County. I think the volunteers who help the big families need to support, and we have many this type of project. As concluding remarks, families and special children are our future. We must ensure that they are well equipped to face any challenges and achieve their full potential. I can assure you that the COR will be a strong ally to your continuous effort. I have 3 daughters, and I think the way of my life and the object of my life is these 3 daughters who need to help and to have possibilities to live in a family condition in this area in European Union. And I think your work in this topic is useful and welcomed. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Mr. Borboly. Mulțumesc mult. And yes, we hope to have some municipalities from Romania to be members of our network. Congratulations for your large family. You are a member of this club of large families. Then we have a lot of things to do in Europe to build this family-friendly Europe. Thank you. Thank you. Mulțumesc. Then now we go to listen Dr. Luciano Malfer. Luciano Malfer is the General Director of the Agency for the Family of the Autonomous Province of Trento in Italy, which is one of the regions which is working from years ago. I think one of the first developing family-friendly policies in its territory, very well developed with a lot of initiatives, a lot of good practices, and I think it will be very interesting to listen to him. Buongiorno, Dr. Malfer, and the floor is yours.
Buongiorno, good morning to everybody. Thank you to Raul and Regina to organize this important meeting. If you can, okay, this is my presentation. And I think the family and the children are really our future. No? It is important to work about this question. I have a short presentation to show you all the social impact of local family-friendly policies. And Trentino has implemented an important model of family-friendly policies. And we worked about this issue from 10 years. We adopted in 29 an important document, our local government, family policies in Trentino, with this specific white paper on family and birth policies. And then we, in 2011, the Trentino government approved a specific law for the promotion of family well-being and set up a specific agency. I work in this agency to reorient all local policies on family well-being. The question is this: we don't have only one family policies. All the government, the local government, make an integrated system of family-friendly policies. And in this law introduces the family impact assessment and the publication every 2 years of a specific report on the state of implementation of the law on family well-being, the accountability to the people what produced the law about the specific policy on family-friendly people. And then recently, in 2019, the local government, a new government, approved a specific structural and strategic plan for the support and promotion of the family. The plan includes 36 activities. The plan is this. We have 5 big area: economic benefit, work-life balance policies, Trentino family quality system to promote the local economy with the family. The area number 4 is important, I think more important at this moment. We have to introduce specific policies to favor the transition to adult age for young people. This is the big question, I think, in the moment. And the area number 5, the family networks and association. We have to work with the family association to improve the network of family and the organization that work about the family-friendly policies. This is the plan. The question is the impact of our policies. And I present you all the impact assessment results on 2 aspects. The policies for large family. In our law, we have a specific action for large families. Quindi, and the assessment for these big policies, and the other, the local strategy on the reconciliation, the work-life balance. Now, what produce these policies that improve the work-life balance in a company, public and private company? So, the first question, demographic index of large families. This is the question on Italy, on the demographic index. Italy have a big problem on natality. Trentino is this area. We have in this year 1.4 index, children for women. And the birth rate in Trentino is slightly better than other regions, but still problematic. And the situation on the population is this. The number of families increase. The number of population increased too. This is important. We have region in Italy that decrease the population. This is really a big problem. And the number of members for family decrease. We are more family, but still little family. 2.3 components for family. And what is the impact of our policies on large family in this context? The impact is this. We compared the situation from Trentino, Northeast region in Italy, and Italy. You can see in 10 years, we have 2010, 2020. In 10 years, families with 1 child decrease. This is the percent of the number of family with 1 child. This is the situation in Trentino, and this is the situation in Nord-Est, and this is the situation in Italy. The family in 10 years, family with 2 children are the same. In Nord-Est are the same too, and Italy is so. But the question important is this. The number in 10 years, families with 3 and more children have increased from 10% to 13%. This is important. The suggestion is this: if we have the policies with the family that the project of future for the family can improve it with the strong policies and to promote the large family. This is the first question. For the second work and life balance companies index about this, we can show this. This is the Trentino family quality system. This is our methodology. We worked about the standard family audit to promote the conciliation of life and work in the company. Specific in standard, we have implemented in Trentino and in Italy too. And in this model, new public family management, we have the network of family-friendly municipalities is one of the policies. We have family hotel policies, networking analysis, family public procurement, family quality brand, family-friendly municipalities, and so on. For family audit certification, my address is the make this certification. We have elaborated a flexibility index that is adopted in companies that have introduced specific work and life balance plans. The family audit is a management tool. They promote a change in the culture of the company. The company approves every year a strategic plan that promotes human resource, and the plan includes specific action focused on improve employee well-being, improve company productivity, to harmonize lifetimes with the working times, and to support female employment and gender balance. This is the number of companies that have adopted the standard. This is the test. In 2008, we elaborated the standard with 15 companies, and then the number of companies improve. We have a national experimentation with the state government, the second experimentation at the national level, and we have other collaboration with other regions in Italy. The number of the situation is this in Trentino, the number of companies that adopted the standard, and this flexibility index make this. We have elaborated this index. Is an algorithm that collects all the flexibility strategies adopted by the company through the strategic plan. We have flexibility when in entry to work, when leaving from work, in the lunch break, smart working, bank of hours, and so on. We elaborate a specific situation in the company when they started the plan. This is a real case. This any company have this index in this time, elaborated the plan, the family plan, implemented in the time the action from the plan. You can look here, the bank of hour are implemented. Here how they implemented the horario for each person, the other flexibility strategy, and the index improve. In 4-5 years, the index is really high, and this is the average of similar organizations that have adopted the standard. This is a big organization, this organization have a good flexibility. What are the impact of this flexibility? The impact is this, of not flexibility, of the plan. The plan introduce this is the impact. You can look that for the employee, the benefit as the can really work-life balance strategy is good for the men and the women that work in this company. And the other question, the flexibility of life times and working times reduces absenteeism, and over time increases the productivity of the company. These are really important for the company. This is benefit for company. This is benefit for the family in the company. And we have a big study about impact. I don't have the time now to show the other index. If you still have a minute, I would like to project a video showing some impact indicators that we have elaborated for our family festival that ended last week. Please, Raul.
Wow, thank you very much, Dr. Malfer. Very nice video. And very interesting to see how the local family-friendly policies developed in Trento, through your agency. You can evaluate after several years that they had a real social impact and a positive impact in the territory. Thank you very much. And now we are going to another initiative, very interesting. I think it's called chrono-urbanism, how to create, specifically in big cities, but also in small cities, but it's really complicated in big cities, how to create a family-friendly environment where you can live real with like a human, not like a machine or like a robot going to the work and a lot of time moving through the city to buy, to go to the school, to go to the work. This is called the 5-minute city. It's a practice that Professor Carlos Moreno proposed and is trying to develop in the city of Paris.
Buongiorno, good morning.
Good morning.
Buenos días.
Then you talk about this 15-minute pause. Bye.
Thank you so much.
Sorry, problems with the sound. What happened?
Thank you so much. Do you have my slide share? Yes, it's okay. Thank you so much. Good morning from France. I am today in the south of France. Thank you for your kind invitation for talking about this 15-minute city concept. And I want to share our vision in the city of Paris, but today is not only a vision in Paris, because the 15-minute city concept and the twin concept 30-minute territory are today very popular worldwide. Why? Because in fact we wanted to transform our urban lifestyle. We wanted to define another lifestyle for changing radically our life in cities, because we needed to find more sustainability, more sociability, more proximity. The first point, in fact, for understanding the success of the 15-minute city is, first of all, this today compulsory actions for fighting against climate change. This is the first element 5 years ago, when for the first time I proposed to the community, to the international community, to define another way for living in cities, given that cities are the most important contributor with CO2 emissions. I considered at this moment that we needed to change our work style for working differently, for avoiding long commute, for having more useful time, and in particular for having more useful time for individual activities, for familial activities, for friendly activities, for revitalizing our neighborhood. 5 years after, with the pandemic crisis, it is today evident around the world that we need to have a new happy proximity, instead of to continue to go during 2 hours or more in a round trip only for going from my home to my office. The 15-minute city, in fact, this is a powerful roadmap for changing our urban lifestyle. We need to take our time. We need to develop a new ecological attitude. We need to develop a new economic model based on proximity. We need to reconquer this new social impact. If we wanted to propose a sustainable city is necessary to identify the convergence between three aspects. This ecological attitude for having in our daily life a radically reduction of our CO2 emissions. We need to develop a new economic and new business model for giving to the proximity a very more important local employment, more important new business model for local jobs, for local commerce, for developing more economical intensity in the daily life based on proximity. And at the same time, we need today to fight against racism, populism. We need to fight against social exclusions. We need to transform our proximities for having a more important friendly neighborhood. The convergence between a new ecological, economical, and social positive impact is one of the key elements for proposing this way. The 15-minute city is totally compliant with the two Sustainable Development Goals of the United Nations. The first one, of course, of 13th, to fight against climate change, and the 11th, to develop sustainable, resilient, and safe cities. We need, with this concept, to develop the happy proximities in order to reconquer our useful time, for taking our time, for developing new sociabilities, including our personal and these very relevant activities with our family. The 15-minute city is based on 4 concepts: ecology, for reducing our CO2 emissions; proximity, for using more and better different infrastructures, building that exist already in our proximities, in our cities, in different districts. The first point, solidarity, for developing new economic model, for developing new activities in the public space, for reconquer the public spaces for humans and not for cars, for developing activities with the most important sociability, with the urbanism, with the temporary urbanism, with the tactical urbanism, and last but not least, the citizen empowerment. We need to propose the new ways, the new tools for involving citizens in our local activities. The 15-minute city concept needs to protect the general interest. For that, our urban policy is based on the common good, the urban common. This is the concept of the Nobel Prize Eleanor Strom in 2009. How could we protect the general interest, in particular for avoiding these financial or speculative actions in cities? For that, the 15-minute city, this is a new urban and territorial paradigm. We propose to the policymakers a new urban and territorial narrative. We want to propose to shift our paradigm and to change our mindset. The 15-minute city is based in 3 important implementations. The first one, the chrono-urbanism, to change the rhythm of the city, to live differently, to avoid to go daily from my home to my office during 2 or more hours to develop a new work style, and today this is possible with the consequences of the COVID-19. The second point, the scientific name is chronotopia. Chronotopia, we want to develop the multi-purpose functions. Today, the average rate of building in cities is very, very low. Only 30 or 40% of the time we have been using our building. Between 60 and 70% our building are closed, because this is the consequence of the monofunctional activities. We needed to transform our building for the multi-purpose functions. And the first point, this is the topophilia. The topophilia, this is our capabilities for loving our places, for loving our streets, for loving our neighbor, for developing the social activities in my streets, in my different squares, with my friend, with my family, with my friends. We needed for that implement 6 essential urban functions in proximity. To live in the good condition, myself, my family, my friends. To work in proximity with the decentralized working for avoiding to have the long commute daily. To supply with the shorter circuits in my neighborhood. To take care with my physical and mental health. To learn the access to education and culture, and to enjoy, to have this possibility to access to the green areas, air non-polluted, refreshness and water. This is the 6 essential urban functions. And with the 15-minute city, we wanted to develop a lot of intersections in each one of the functions. Instead of to have a building for each one of the functions, we needed to develop this multi-purpose activity. This is the polymorphism of infrastructures. What is the consequence? The consequence is to have more time, to have more capabilities for developing my well-being, my personal well-being, myself, my family, my kids, the elderly people, my sociability with my neighbor, with my work colleagues, and my ecological daily attitude, because I could reduce my commuting, because if you have the possibility to access to the different services into just 15 minutes by on foot or by bike, I have this possibility for using more and better each one of our proximities. The 15-minute city, in reality, this is not my 15-minute city only for myself and my family. The 15-minute city, this is the 15-minute city for all city. We needed to reinvent this multi-purpose vicinity with a polycentric city. We needed to break this traditional conception of the segmented city. We wanted to implement a lot of services in whole city for giving this accessibility for each one of us. The 15-minute city, this is a new trajectory, this is a new path with this powerful holistic roadmap, and the implementation of the 15-minute city is this new way, this is new urban policy for going towards this polycentric city. One of the key, of course, this is to switch from the constrained mobility towards a chosen mobility. I have the possibility to access to different services in my proximity. I have in consequence the possibility for going in all places of the city because I want. Today, with the COVID-19, we have been emerging a very radically transformation of the work style. The corporate tower have been becoming the ghost towers, and we have the possibility to develop this concept, the decentralized working, the corporate working. With the 15-minute city, we have this possibility for rediscovering our neighborhood. With the new technologies, with the digital technologies, we have been developing a very powerful holistic platform based on digital maps and artificial intelligence for rediscovering different infrastructures, for proposing new services, and for visualizing the completeness, for developing new territorial diagnoses, for formulating the powerful transformation strategies. In just a few minutes, in the city of Paris today has embraced this concept for transforming our public spaces, for developing these public activities, for reconquering the public space, not for cars, but for humans, for families, for kids, to turning the squares not for roundabout for cars, but for green places for people. This is the project in the next 2 years of the medical Champs-Élysées. The schools, this is very important in our urban policy. We needed to transform the schools. We have decided to open the schoolyards during the weekend. Before the 15-minute city, the schoolyards in Paris were closed. Now are open for developing a lot of activities for kids, for the intergenerational activities. We have decided to ban cars off the each one of the streets that surrounded the schools. This is the name, the school for kids, the school streets. And this public space is not more for cars, but is today for intergenerational activities, for kids, for families. And we have decided to launch a very ambitious program for developing the urban agriculture, for using different unused places, the rooftop, the public place. The local commerce is a very important point for developing this happy proximity. We have decided to support the local shops to buy the square meters in Paris for renting with a price below the speculative real estate market, and for finishing the participatory budget. This is very important for us. We have dedicated today 800 million euros per year only for supporting the projects submitted by the participatory budget, and the winner are funded by the city of Paris. If I want to just to put it in a nutshell, the COVID-19 today is a very big opportunity for transforming our cities, for transforming our lifestyles radically with the proximity, with the happy proximity, with the 50-minute city concept, for retrieving a peaceful green streets, shopping close to home, accessing to multiple services, to have the services at the proximity, health services to take care of elderly people, of fragile people, and for having more public space for kids, for children, for families, to reconquer green spaces, for developing cultural activities in proximity, for proposing a lot of services in proximities. This is today a reality not only in Paris, this is today a reality in several cities around the world, because after the city of Milan, the C40 City Network and the Preschool Academy have decided to implement in very important international activity. They call for a 15 minutes initiative in 18 cities today around the world. Thank you for your kind invitation, and I hope that your conference today will be a great success. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Moreno. And it's a very experience to make more livable our municipalities and our cities. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye bye. Have a nice day.
Well, now we have with us another very hot topic in Europe now. We are in a very big process of transformation in the world of energy. The energy bill is now one of the biggest worries of the European families. And we have to talk about this question of how to fighting the energy poverty, actions and good practices for municipalities, and to talk about this very interesting project, which is the Energy Poverty Advisory Hub, and also the Covenant of Mayors of the Climate Alliance, because the involvement of local authorities is key. It's very important in this process of transformation. I would like to welcome Mr. Jeppe Mikel Jensen. Good morning, and thank you very much to be with us.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Thank you for inviting us here today. I will.
Sorry. We have a very bad sound. I don't know what happened with the microphone. Maybe.
Is it better?
It's with a lot of noise.
It's a lot of noise. 2 seconds. I'll just try to see if I can find some change.
Now perfect. Now
it's
better
perfect. Now.
Thank you.
Okay, you're most welcome. Yes. Let me just. I think I have very limited time to present a very large topic, as well as the initiative, as you can see here on the front page. So my task today was basically to give you a little teaser that can help you in progressing on the topic of energy poverty, in particular at local level. So I will provide you with what we call sort of the Energy Poverty Advisory Hub as an initiative in a nutshell. So a very quick introduction that will hopefully encourage you to dig further into all the work we're doing. And then I would also like to sort of make a bit of connections to what was mentioned before, the Covenant of Mayors, another much bigger initiative that's been around for a bit more than 10 years, also related to the energy transitions of the European Union, but with a focus on the local level. So I'll just start my presentation here, and feel free to pose questions along the way, and I will try to answer them ad hoc. As you can see here, I think what is important is to show how this new initiative of the Energy Poverty Advisory Hub has been established. Where does it come from, and why? And then a bit about our approach in the Advisory Hub in tackling energy poverty. So the Energy Poverty Advisory Hub is an initiative coming from the European Commission with the support from the European Parliament in order to focus on the local level and have a practical approach to tackling energy poverty. Our vision is to eradicate energy poverty and accelerate the just energy transition at European local governments, and thereby support the Green Deal mandate of the whole European Union. So basically push forward local actions as a contribution to the overall EU goal of climate neutrality for 2050. But what is important when we are talking about climate neutrality and the energy transition, when it is so overarching, when we talk about climate neutrality, it's not just reduction of 10 or 15% of our emissions now, where we can focus on let's say the public sector only. When we talk about climate neutrality, we're talking about all sectors. This means that everybody needs to transition. We as citizens need, the industries, small medium enterprises, everybody needs to take an active role here, and that's where we also need to focus on the vulnerability of some parts of some sectors and some parts of our society, in order for us to ensure that everybody is on board, and not that the energy transition is not only will not only be a benefit for those who are resilient enough to transition and change their daily lives. For vulnerable households, for instance, vulnerable consumers, as we also call them, a small change in your daily life can actually mean that you turn your whole life upside down, with a great risk. Whereas if we'd say, like, if we look at a high income family, that is much more resilient to a small change in the, let's say, the energy bills. A good example right now is that we all experience across the European Union a rise in the energy prices, and to some this may just be a sort of just another euro bill, and then we move on, and to others it might actually be a question about changing your budget from, it could be between the choice between heating or eating in this case. So so that's sort of a little bit about the vision of us to ensure that the transition is just. And our mission here is to be the center of energy poverty experiences and expertise in Europe. So basically also what I will show you a little later here in the presentation, the go-to place on energy poverty. And we will be doing this by providing both direct support with technical assistance to local authorities, municipalities across the Union, the European Union, with online training, with publications, and a series of events directly targeting energy poverty. Some of the events will be more European-wide in order to establish good connections between relevant organizations, municipalities that have the same ideas, but some will also be at a national level in national languages, where we can focus more on the, let's say, the regulatory, the political context, for instance, economic context, social context. So these are some of the activities we are dealing with, at the same time as being sort of a advisory hub that is EU-wide and connected to the closely related to the European Commission and the European Parliament. We are also intending to provide informations from the, let's say, the local reality on energy poverty to the European Commission, to the European Parliament, and also the member states, in order to ensure that we are all talking about the same that we're talking about the same challenges and the same solutions. Because if we have a coherent language on this, our dialogue will be much more fruitful. That's something we have also learned from the Covenant of Mayors, which will take me to my next slide, and I have to click here. So you can see we have sort of the focus of the local authority, but with a tight connection to all levels of governance. So both the regional, the national governments, as well as European level, in order to ensure that we, let's say, all ideas are aligned and we are talking about the same goals. In this way, we expect that we will move faster in tackling energy poverty. So you see, as I mentioned, that we are a bit, although our main office is in Brussels, we are decentralized. That we have sort of what we call antennas, or national organizations that are promoting our activities, that will also be sort of leading some of the national activities. So it's a sort of Brussels-centered yet decentralized structure. Also, we have a series of expert organizations that will help us in connecting expertise with sort of practitioners in municipalities, and in order to establish energy poverty activities and projects. For instance, working with large families and the energy poverty challenges of vulnerable consumers. Could be single-parent households, larger families, larger low-income families, for instance, that are exactly facing this sort of a much stronger effect on changes in, for instance, energy prices as we see right now, and a change of the business as usual. So coming back to the foundation of where the Energy Poverty Advisory Hub comes from, we are building strongly on the Energy Poverty Observatory, which is sort of the predecessor of the Advisory Hub. In this work, a lot of information has been collected, and a lot of knowledge about the situation in the European Union related to energy poverty has been gathered. And you would see a lot of the information that's been gathered there from the previous activities are still on our website. Simply because it's important to know where we stand in order to discuss where we have to go. So you can see here also the focus has been slightly changed from the previous activities that has been more focusing on the national level to find national indicators for energy poverty, to the more local level. And that's where the Covenant of Mayors comes in. I don't know if you are familiar with the Covenant of Mayors, but it is a large bottom-up movement in mainstreaming climate and energy planning at local level. In short, with the Covenant of Mayors, the municipal board agrees to make a local commitment to the EU-wide climate and energy targets. So basically, a signature from the mayor sets the political course for implementing a sustainable energy and climate action plan in the municipality. At the same time as the municipal board agrees to mitigate climate, sort of the impacts of climate change, as well as to adapt to the changing climate, they are also focusing on the third pillar, which is actually energy poverty. So if you go to their website, you can perhaps find your own municipality and see if they have signed up to the Covenant of Mayors after 2015. This also means that your municipality have signed up to take actions on energy poverty. So this might also be an invitation to you to approach your municipality and have a dialogue on this topic. It is also a good reason for your municipality to perhaps contact us in the Energy Poverty Advisory Hub to see if they can make use of any of the capacity building or the technical assistance that we are providing. At the same time, we are also mentioning the Clean Energy for EU Islands, which is a kind of a similar initiative, obviously focusing on islands only. But the interesting part here is how this initiative is focusing on engaging all stakeholders. So making the local authority more of a facilitator of the energy transition, ensuring that civil society organizations are playing an important role, that NGOs are playing an important role, that the local business associations are playing an important role, and local research and educational institutions in their area, in this case on the islands, are playing together in order to achieve the energy transition. Because as I mentioned previously, when we talk about climate neutrality, it's not just one particular sector that needs to reduce their emission. We all have to have to be involved. So moving on, as you can see here, the Energy Poverty Advisory Hub is close to 1 year old. And we have been preparing a lot, and we have a lot of things in the pipeline. We recently launched with our launch event here on the 22nd of November, and you can go in on our website and then check some of the presentations and some of the ideas and words from the European Commissioner Kadri Simpson, from the Director General for Energy, for instance, also members of parliaments and their point of view, as more as in-depth descriptions of what we will be doing in the Energy Poverty Advisory Hub the next coming 3 years. You can also actually listen to a series of good examples from mayors and from other practitioners working directly with vulnerable consumers and sort of what we consider the essence of the audience suffering from energy poverty. I would like to focus on, as requested by the president here of ELFAC, to focus on one particular thing that we have already launched. It is our what we call the EPA Atlas. I will just quickly, there's a lot of slides here, but technically I'm just walking you through a part of our website. So I will make this very short and instead invite you to go and visit the EPA Atlas. One of the things that we are doing in the Energy Poverty Advisory Hub is to collect as many good examples and inspiration, both from local and regional as well as national projects and initiatives, to ensure that you do not feel that you're alone in taking actions on energy poverty. Because if you take a look at our atlas, which was launched only 2 weeks ago, we already have more than 200 examples, and we are gradually sort of uploading new examples. And it's very likely that even very close to you, there might be good examples that can be inspiring for you to take actions. As you can see, it is on our website, and it's a fairly simple search engine, and you can zoom in on your location and see nearby projects. You can also make use of the search features. So you can, for instance, also do a advanced search on families. For instance, we have several projects that are have a specific focus on families across the union as well. So basically, if you click on the different icons here, if you hover over the icons, you can see what the icons mean, and in this way, you can filter to find the most relevant projects. You would also find advanced filters that can really make you zoom in even further if there's something very specific that you are looking for. So by this, I think as I said, I'm just presenting what we have on our website. You will see sort of the results also from what you search for, etc. I think what is important to mention here is that that we are. Let me just go one slide back, so there's a bit more interesting things to look at. What is important is that as being the platform for related to energy poverty, we are of course more than open to receive new dots on the map, so to speak. So if you go to our website and you find it relevant, all the things that are there, but at the same time say, but wait a minute, in our municipality, we actually also have a project that is, for instance, focusing on low-income households or single parent families, for instance. You can submit the specific project to us, and we will ensure that the dot appears on the map, and you will become a part of the cases of good inspiration. Because we believe that good examples are really a driver for taking the first step in tackling energy poverty. And I think that that is it from my side. And as said, you are more than welcome to post questions here, now, and later. So feel free to visit our website or contact me directly. Thanks for now, and thank you for inviting. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Mr. Jensen. It's a very interesting initiative, and I think that it has a lot to do with our European Large Families Confederation, with large families in Europe, also with family-friendly municipalities. Then I think we have to work to cooperate and to work together on this objective. Thank you again. Then we are following this Congress. We are on time, and now we can go to the next. I don't know. We don't have many questions. I think people is thinking about all these contents, and maybe we can go to the next section, to the next block. But before that, I would like to show you also news with this. You know that the European Network of Family-Friendly Municipalities, it's an initiative of the European Large Families Confederation, started there from us, and all the information on the internet was on the website of the European Large Families Confederation. But till 1 week, from 1 week ago, this has changed. And now we have shown you the new website of the European Large Families Confederation. You can find the site on internet on familycities.eu. This is the domain, the new domain, familycities.eu. And on the website, you can find on the home, you have, for example, we are now in 7 countries, 62 municipalities, 32 good practices shared in the database of good practices, and an explanation of our mission, the last news of from municipalities, from family associations, or interesting news regarding the network, all the events organized by the network, by the municipalities, or by other entities interesting for us. And you can see the last best practices here, and in the different menus of the site, you can find, for example, an explanation of the network, the history, the declaration of the main idea for the network, the aims of the network, the benefits for members, for municipalities members, the requirements to join the European Network of Family-Friendly Municipalities. There are 10 family criteria, global minimum family criteria, and the municipality needs to accomplish only 5 of them to be part of the network. And of course, we need the commitment of the mayor and the municipal council to apply to be members of this network during 2 years. And the idea is to, every 2 years, you have a process of evaluation and to improve some of these policies you are doing, to improve these policies with new practices. How to join the network? If you want to join the network, it's very easy. You have only to fill this form. But if you are a municipality from Portugal or from Italy, we have an agreement with the national networks, and you have to apply through the national network in Portugal or the national network in Italy. And you can see here the map of the members in all Europe. These 62 municipalities in 7 countries, in Portugal, in Poland, in Latvia, in Italy, in Hungary, in Greece, and Croatia. But now we have some municipalities interested to join in Romania, in Spain, in France, and in Germany. Then I think we are going to grow in a short time with many new municipalities. Here you can see the database of good practices. The good practices you can find, you have a very to search on the country of the practice, the city of the practice, and the target of the practice, children or families or generations under 40, parents and children, teenagers, etc. And the type of good practice. If the practice is economic support, or it has to do with environment, health, involvement, networking, services, strategy, transport of women. The database is only accessible, now it's open for everybody, but it will be only accessible for members of the network. We have also a section, because now, yes, we have a section of research. In this section, you can find interesting reports and data, scientific data, to help municipalities to do this work to improve their family policies. Then you have a section of news, of the network, of the associations, of related with family, the events, and how to contact. We are going to start also the social network, a Facebook page, a Twitter account, and a channel on YouTube. And also we are going to start a monthly newsletter to send to all members and to all people interested in this network. Okay, this is, and now we can follow with the speakers, and I like to welcome Paola Proietti. Paola Proietti is member of the Joint Research Center of the EU Science Hub, which is an institution of the European Commission to develop the scientific work, the research in the European Union. I'm seeing here, Paola, yes, we are 5 minutes before the time, but thank you very much to be with us, and the floor is yours. To talk about building urban data sets for the Sustainable Development Goals. This is the area you are working in the Joint Research Center. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Can you upload the slide, please? I can't see them now.
No. You need to upload your presentation. Sorry. Yes, okay. If it's possible to upload now, yes.
Yes. I will share the screen. Maybe it's quicker because we did it before and.
Yes, but it is fair. You need to upload again. Yes, sorry.
Okay.
You need to upload again the presentation. The next speakers, they need to upload the presentation again. Yes, it's okay. It's here. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you. I'm sorry. So, good morning to everybody. Today, as it was anticipated, my presentation will concern the local monitoring of SDGs. This is a project which is coordinated in the Joint Research Center by my colleague, Alice Siracusa, and there are also other 2 colleagues working on this topic, and I will try to represent them well today. For those of you who don't know what is the JRC, just a couple of words of introduction. The JRC, or Joint Research Center, is the European Commission Service, Science and Knowledge Service. It has its headquarters in Brussels, but also research facilities located in 5 European countries. But going into the focus of today's presentation, which is about the local monitoring of SDGs. What is the localization of SDGs? Maybe there are some of you that don't know it. Actually, the localization of SDGs is the translation of Sustainable Development Goals, which are set at the country level, to local context. Why is it important? Because localizing the SDGs allows local authorities to target which are the challenges that are more pressing for them in their territories, to increase the well-being of their own citizens. And also because, of course, the Sustainable Development Goals cannot be achieved without the contribution of every local authorities and also of all citizens, which are all encouraged to do their part, actually. So there are already a lot of municipalities across the world that started localizing the SDGs and doing voluntary local reviews. The voluntary local review is the main instrument through which local authorities can localize SDGs. And what is this voluntary local review? Is a sort of big document in which the 17 Sustainable Development Goals are, let's say, digested locally. So there is an initial statement, usually a political statement, which express the will let's say, to understand how a certain municipality is doing in relation to SDGs. Then there is an overall assessment of the local situation through certain indicators. And then there is, of course, a linkage between the local situation, which was assessed through indicators, and actions which can be undertaken locally. Let's say what our work mainly concentrated upon is the second part. So we concentrated on understanding how local authorities could actually monitor their progress towards SDGs. Why we did so? Because there were many guidelines directed to countries and to the national level to monitor SDGs, but until some time ago, there were no recommendations for local authorities to monitor their progresses. And so we thought to produce a publication, which we called the European Handbook for SDG Voluntary Local Review, which could provide municipalities willing to monitor their actions toward sustainability objective through a framework of indicators. So in the handbook, we suggest a list of indicators that municipalities can easily access and use to monitor their progresses. Here you see an example from the handbook we published in 2020. Actually, this publication has been conceived to be really useful for cities so that they can take it and they can immediately understand what each indicator is about. For example, here we have gender employment gap as an example. There is a description of the indicator, which is not super technical. Then we have a description of how different municipalities in Europe are doing in relation to that indicators. And then there are some also comments and limitations about the use of that indicator. And on the right-hand side, there are the main information for municipalities to use the indicator. So the source, when a certain municipality can find this indicator, and also some technical information on it. It's a very useful instrument to use. But what we did is then, actually we continued our work on the localization of SDGs. And recently, during the last years, actually, we published other 4 methodological reports. And we also did some pilot research with the single municipalities across Europe. And what is most important to summarize and to mention today is actually the work we did with municipalities. First, after the publication of the European Handbook, what we did, it was to analyze all the voluntary local reviews that were published between 2016 and 2021, so before or during the period we were writing our handbook, and to understand which were, let's say, the characteristics of these publications. And what we learned is actually that municipalities across Europe had some difficulties, for example, in monitoring some indicators more than others. For example, the SDG 1, which is on poverty, actually created many difficulties to municipalities to be monitored. And this was actually a bit unfortunate, given that municipalities are the first tier of government which can act and increase the well-being of people, and also reducing the negative effect of poverty. And the same, for example, hold for the SDG 2, which is about hunger. And also another thing we found during our analysis is that actually different municipalities can approach the monitoring of SDGs for different reasons. For example, Barcelona, when it started the process of the localization in 2019, was using mostly national indicators. What does this mean? Is that actually Barcelona was proposing itself as a front runner in the localization, and the main objective was mainly to compare itself to other cities, for example, in the same country. While we see an inversion, let's say, not an inversion, an evolution of the reason why Barcelona was doing this monitoring effort in 2020. For instance, in 2020, Barcelona started to use more and more municipal indicators to monitor its progress towards SDGs. Why so? Because actually the city understood that this VLR, this voluntary local review, was also useful to really understand local challenges and to really put in place policies to improve the well-being of its citizens. So there was a bit of a transformation between VLR being a mean for international diplomacy to a mean to really tackle local challenges and improve the well-being of citizens, leaving no one behind. Another study we recently published is the result of the work we have been carried out during the last years with 6 European cities: Oulu, Bratislava, Reggio Emilia, Valencia, Sevilla, and Porto. What we did with this city is to actually give them our handbook for voluntary local review and to understand with them if the indicators we were proposing were actually available for them, useful, and we asked them not only to try to find the data for the indicators we suggested in the handbook, but also to try to find new ones in case the indicators we were proposing were not enough to represent the local challenges. And with these cities, we discovered some vulnerabilities, for example, of our framework. So we will discover, for example, that some of the indicators we were proposing to municipalities to use were too difficult for some local administration to handle, because maybe there was not a person specifically devoted to data management. So in the new version, let's say, of the European Handbook we will publish in June 2022, and that we will present at the World Urban Forum in Katowice, we will try to provide and to implement the framework of the indicator we propose to municipalities, also taking into account what we have learned in this year working with several cities around Europe. And we hope this improved framework will be even more useful for them. Here you see an example of additional indicator that the different municipalities we work with propose to include in their local monitoring. For example, you can see topics also related to the Congress of today. You see that, for example, while we were proposing in our handbook only to monitor the number of people that were using social housing in a certain municipalities, the city of Porto suggested that this number was not enough for them, that they also wanted to know the typologies of family requesting social housing, because actually they need different support and they might have different priorities to access social housing. So this could have triggered different policies. Also, you can see always from the city of Porto that while initially we were suggesting to measure only the number of meals served for kids in primary school, also in this case, the city of Porto, let's say, integrated the indicator we were suggesting with other more detailed indicators. And the last example is from the city of Reggio Emilia. Also in this case, we were suggesting to monitor the number of children attending preschools. But the city of Reggio Emilia, for example, added a new interesting indicators in its own VLR, which was the number of accessible schools. So not only how many kids are going to school, but also how many schools are really able to offer an inclusive education, and how many schools really are really accessible also for people, for example, for kids with disabilities. This was very interesting in our view. But what we did working with these cities is not only to ask them to provide additional indicators to the one we originally proposed in our framework, but also to try to calculate new indicators which could measure, let's say, topic relevant for the cities, but for which there were no data to monitor them. So, together with collecting these new indicators created by the 6 cities, we also created new ones. For example, here you can see an example that my colleagues and myself created for the city of Paris. Here we use very high granularity data to show which are the areas in the cities in which elderly can easily or not easily access services. So this is very crucial also, since we are going to have an aging society especially in the next years. So understanding which are the areas of the cities which provide better services for older cohorts is also quite crucial to improve the well-being of families and of older people, especially if instead they don't have a large family to support them and they need to access all the services independently. One last point we would like to make today is that actually all these indicators and data which are used to do the local monitoring can be useful for two things. The first thing is that if there are pre-existing strategies aiming at improving the local situations in a certain municipality, indicators and data can be useful to be more accountable and to understand how these strategies are really contributing to improve things. While this data and these indicators to measure SDGs can also be useful in another, let's say, in another perspective. So if the strategies and policies have not been implemented yet, after 2015, we have these instruments and these indicators to really assess local challenges in a more complete and in a more holistic way. And the picture that is created through these indicators can also be useful to implement completely new strategies and also transformative actions, which can increase the quality of our citizens. And this not only applies to local strategies, but also to the strategies that will be put in place also in this new programming period through also funding that are directly going from Europe to urban setting and municipalities, which are urban sustainable development strategies. I hope especially because actually these funds are going to tackle different, let's say, sectors, and among those also a lot of resources will be devoted and were devoted also in the last programming period to the topic of social inclusion, poverty, and discrimination. I hope this presentation could give you some other insights, and I'm available for any further requests or questions you might have. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Paola. Really, the work of the family-friendly municipalities has a lot to do with the Sustainable Development Goals. And one of these topics which is very impacted on the Sustainable Development Goals is housing, the problem of housing for families to have a good life, a wellness in Europe, and it's a problem specifically for large families. I would like to introduce you Professor Gabriel Amitsis. He is the director of the research lab, Social Administration Research Lab at the University of West Attica in Athens. And Gabriel is also the vice chair of the working group for housing systems in transition in Housing Europe. Housing Europe is the biggest platform representing the European Federation of Public, Cooperative and Social Housing. Then, thank you very much to be with us, Professor Gabriel Amitsis. We have changed the order of the speakers, but we are, I think that the topic you are going to talk with us, to speak to us, it's for us very, very important for families. Thank you.
Thank you also, Raul, for this introduction. Good morning, everyone from Athens. First of all, I would like to congratulate the organizers for this very interesting event about the contribution of local policies to the well-being of families across Europe. As Raul has told you, my presentation will address a rather neglected issue within the broader European debate about families. This is the impact of housing on demography and family welfare. But let me first start with an introductory comment about housing policies for families Europe at the local level. Three arguments about this topic. First argument, major cities in Europe still face a structural housing shortage, and houses prices in areas of high demand are higher. Also, rents follow similar upward trends. What does it mean? This means that finding adequate and affordable housing, and I will give you some definitions about this concept, are increasingly hard where in places where job opportunities are available. Second argument, at the same time, some of our cities and regions in Europe are experiencing outward migration and high population degrees, as a valuable statistical indicator shows us. Striking regions in Europe show high housing vacancy rates, abandoned properties, negative equity, as well as an increased need for services and revitalization of areas with an increasingly old population due to the demographic crisis across Europe. Third argument, what about families with children? And I will focus my presentation on this specific category of families. Families with children, particularly those at risk of poverty and social exclusion, face key challenges nowadays across Europe in terms of their access to quality, affordable housing. Here are the two dominant definitions about the concept of public or social housing. Both definitions share a common agreement that housing should correspond to decent and affordable housing for all in community and regional level. Let me now present you the global agenda on housing, and some of you could raise important questions if you don't see your country under the 27 of the 40 countries that have reported to the previous OECD questionnaire on affordable and social housing, that they have introduced and implement a national housing strategy. So here is a strong distinction across the globe between countries with a national housing strategy. I have underlined the countries belong to the European Union, and the countries that have reported that a national housing strategy is not available. But now let's connect the agenda housing with the families agenda. Many countries report that their housing policy approach targets support for specific groups. I have colored the situation concerning families with children. As you may understand from this slide, not all countries report that their policy objective target families with children. The majority target low-income households, and you see the other categories inside the population include people with disability, elderly, youth, homeless, and of course, people with specific cultural or ethnic characteristics. What about key challenges that put into question the access of families with children? This is my main target group, to quality, affordable housing. You see the situation and the countries that have reported these challenges. The first challenge, poor housing quality. Second, high cost of land. The third, shortage of the affordable or housing social stock, particularly in urban areas. You see what countries are mostly affected. The next, high or rising houses prices. The next, significant regional differences in the housing stock, housing prices, and housing needs. That means that in a single country, there are significant regional variations, particularly between most affluent and not so affluent regions and municipalities. And of course, difficulties in ensuring that housing could be adapted to changes in demographics that includes all kinds of families, household income distribution, and of course, consumer preferences. What now about the impact of housing on natality and family well-being? I will start with a key argument. Housing exclusion includes also the lack of homelessness. Both homelessness and housing exclusion, and I will explain later with the use of some indicators the concept of housing exclusion, are extreme manifestations across Europe of low birth rates and high family poverty and social exclusion risks. Let me start with a significant development across Europe, the so-called housing cost overburden. You see that last year, more than 10% of the population in the European Union lived in households that spent 40 or more of their disposable income on housing. So these households were considered as facing the housing cost overburden. And you see that this risk affects particularly children, and most importantly, children at risk of poverty. Now you see a very interesting slide, the severe housing deprivation rate between children living in a poor household and children living in a non-poor household. So the key question is, how are families affected by these housing risks? Let us start with the severe housing deprivation risk. It is more evident in the case of single-parent families and large families. What about overcrowding? Another very interesting housing risk. The conclusion is the same. The overcrowding risk is more evident in the case of households with dependent children, single-parent families, and of course, large families. I will finish with a key question about the need to involve local policymakers and stakeholders in the debate about housing and families. I have used a manifesto vocabulary term, the added value of social housing for families. Let us start with a historical development. While the social housing system across Europe have more than 100 years of history in those countries that have introduced public or social housing agendas, now the broader context in Europe has been changing, particularly during the COVID-19 crisis. Why local municipalities, why regions should be involved in the debate about housing for families? First reason, because social housing is a very important economic stabilizer. What does it mean? That housing market stability should create conditions under which all families can find an adequate answer to their needs. Secondly, social housing, as already other speakers in our event have underlined, is also a key active social inclusion mechanism. Why is that so? Because housing has become the highest expenditure for European families, and overburden rate, as I have told you, remains stable at high level, hitting disproportionately harder poor families with many children. If somebody looks at housing costs in relative terms, the average EU overburden rate among people at risk of poverty has increased dramatically across Europe, while it has slightly decreased for those with higher incomes. Third argument, which I believe it's the most self-evident argument in favor of local municipalities and regions investing in adequate and affordable housing is that housing allows families to fulfill a basic human need. It enables their access, particularly if they are at risk of poverty or social exclusion, to adequate living standards, who would otherwise risk being excluded from the housing market. Something also of great interest, social housing, it also provides gain in purchasing power for residents who can benefit from reduced housing costs. And the last argument, the provision of good quality social housing, particularly at the regional or at the local level, can actually help reducing other areas of public spending, such as healthcare, social protection, social services, while at the same time it could stimulate growth at the local level, increase birth rates, and of course strengthen local employment. Given that our sections deals also with the biggest picture with the European Union policies, I would like to finish with a key question. How could the European Union contribute to address housing challenges for families? Let me start with the main picture. The development of family-friendly housing policies within the European Union framework is in principle a responsibility of the member states. Here we should include not only national governments, but also regions and municipalities. Why is that so? Due to the current structure of legal competencies of the European Union. But what last years have shown us, European Union bodies, particularly the European Parliament and the European Commission, have taken a strong position to support the active participation of families in society and the economy through housing. What we could recommend that this EU involvement should be further developed under a new paradigm that could be supported not only by national governments, but also by regions, municipality, and of course, European stakeholders like ELFAC. This paradigm could focus on 4 interrelated objectives. The first is that housing policy should support individuals to become parents. This is very crucial. Second, housing policy should support parents to create and sustain large families. Third, housing policy should empower families and children. And last but not least, housing policies should prevent and combat child poverty and social exclusion. I think that this argument could be the starting point for a broader discussion between national, regional, local, and family stakeholders across Europe. So I think that the platform is ready for a recent discussion. So thank you for listening to my presentation, and I am at your disposal for any comments you want to raise.
Thank you very much, Professor Amitsis. Really, policies of housing are crucial, as you said, specifically to start new families and to be these families able to grow as a family. Then thank you very much. We have taken notes of all your comments and your speech. And now I'd like to introduce you Alejandro Macarron. Alejandro Macarron is the General Director of the Demographic Renaissance Foundation, which is a foundation working on demographics in Europe, and specifically he's working a lot on depopulation and the demographic winter in Europe. Buenos días, good morning, Alejandro.
Good morning.
The floor is yours.
Buenos días, Raul. Good morning to everybody here. Sorry. Yes, I represent an organization whose focus is mainly what are the effects of low birth rates, what are the consequences what are the causes, and what can be done to recover fertility, to recover birth rates, to have more babies, because otherwise we are doomed. In Europe, there are many more deaths than births now, and especially of native Europeans. And this is a phenomenon that some time ago, nobody cared. Actually, there was the fear of overpopulation, no? Not of underpopulation. But more recently, there is some concern, some public concern, some politicians, people, media, organizations talking about this issue. Then people don't understand, most people don't understand or don't want to understand what is happening, what are the consequences and what are the causes, no? Because they typically blame material reasons, poverty, that we don't have, there too much unemployment, whatever causes linked to economics, no? But the true fact is that in all countries, when they have become wealthier, they have fewer kids. And that very, very, very wealthy countries, these incredibly rich countries, like can be Luxembourg or can be Singapore or can be Norway, or now Ireland in Europe as well. Ireland used to be poor, but now it's one of in the top richest. They have very low birth rates and they're going down. So the cause is not there. No, it's not there. It's has to be in values. Values is, do we really want to have children? Do we really want to make families, stable families, with willingness of having several children? No? And the response is that many people don't. And then there are other people who like to do this when they're already, let's say, too old. No, we don't have children when we have 20-something years, but when we have 30, we try even 40, and then it's more difficult. No? In Spain, then specifically, I will speak as well about rural depopulation that Raul asked me to address this topic. No, Spain and Portugal specifically, and some other countries, but specifically Spain and Portugal, are countries with lower population density than other countries in Europe. We have around the same size, a little bit less than France, but we have substantially fewer people. No, so it's true that we have fewer population density, and when with modern economy, people tend to live more in cities, then there are areas that become increasingly depopulated. No? It's mostly young people who live, no, who go to cities. So population in these areas is older than average. No? But the problem there is, and then now in Spain, this is a major source of concern. There is some politicians have realized that rural areas are overrepresented in national politics. The number of voters per member of national parliament is lower than in Madrid or in Barcelona, in provinces that are more populated. So there is a heavy, now a very strong, this is a strong topic, a hot topic in Spain politics. And then there is money. I mean, politicians like always to provide money to their friends or to buy votes. This is their job, no? So there is a lot of money now for these rural areas. And the main argument is that they need to, what they call fix population there, make population not leave these areas, because they think that only immigration, people who go from these places to live to cities, are the cause of the population. And this is not true. I mean, half or more than half of the cause of the population of rural areas is as well low birth rates. No? I have done many analyses, no, with counterfactual analysis. What would have happened if they have in provinces where this is a strong phenomenon now of rural depopulation, with higher birth rates, with 2 children per woman instead of 1, like in some places, no, 2.5. I mean, not talking about extremely high birth rates, but with higher birth rates and with the same immigration rates that these provinces and areas have had historically, their current problem of depopulation will be much lower or non-existent. No? Their population will be not so old. in Spain, we have the south of Spain, Andalusia, has had higher birth rate than the rest for decades. It's not enough, the birth rate in Andalusia, but it's higher than in the rest of Spain. And even if it was a poor region with much immigration to other parts of Spain or going abroad, people to find jobs, still their population is younger than the average of Spain, and they still don't have this problem. So if we talk about rural depopulation, of course, we have to talk about how to create jobs there, how maybe to attract manufacturing industries if possible, or to make modern agriculture competitive. But we have to talk about birth rates. And at least in Spain, politicians are not talking about birth rates when they address the rural depopulation problem. So they are doing something on purpose or because they're ignorant that is completely wrong. I mean, we cannot talk about rural depopulation and ignore that fertility is one of the key things. Moreover, yes, we are having now a stronger demographic winter, a stronger demographic problem in rural areas, but this is just the future of all of Spain and all of Europe if we don't have more babies. I mean, this is a window to the future. As the world can see in Japan what will happen with a baby-age society. I mean, it's a society in which you go there and see that there is not at all this strength that Japan had 30, 40 years ago in growth. You see the cars, many cars that are old. I mean, it's an aged country. It's an old country, their population. So then we can see as well as areas in our own countries in these rural areas. No, this is the future. So we need more babies for all the countries, for the rural areas and non-rural areas. And when we talk about rural depopulation, we have to speak about birth rates. And then going back to the start of my brief speech, no? We cannot blame mostly, and not just mostly, only in economic problems for not having children. I mean, royal families have also seen their birth rates decline sharply. Royal families, they're rich people. In Spain, for instance, I have made many analyses. You take the 15 cities with highest unemployment rate, so the poorest, in a sense, cities, and there's 15 cities with the lowest unemployment rate, so the richer cities. And there is no difference in fertility rate. There is even a little bit more fertility, not probably significant, but the numbers are that the birth rate is even a little bit higher in the cities with more unemployment. So if we talk about rural depopulation, we have to talk about birth rates. And when we speak about birth rates, we have not to focus only in helping in economic benefits for families that are important and are fair. But this is not the main cause. The main cause of not having children is that most people don't want to have children, or if they want to have children, they want to have them when they're too old. Many people don't get married anymore. Marriages have more children than other type of households. I mean, there are 3 types of households with children, with a married couple, with a de facto or conventional couple not married, and single parent homes. No? In all countries, households with a married couple have more children in average than the rest. And it's logical because having children is the best thing that you can do in life, the most satisfying thing if things go well, but it's also very risky. No? It's something that engages you for 20, 30 years. You have to spend a lot of money in raising them. And if you don't have a stable household landscape with your significant other, no, with your spouse or whatever, then you will probably not have many children. And if you divorce very soon after getting married, maybe you don't have any children with that person. Or if you divorce after 3 years, you only have 1 child and not more. No? And this is something that politicians typically don't talk about. They never know, not only politicians. I mean, it's very, very different a society in which most of the people get married and very few divorce, and this was the traditional society. When divorce was already allowed, maybe 50, 60 years ago in Europe, in most of the countries, in Spain a little bit later, very few people divorced, and most of the people got married. Now, around 50%, depending on the countries, between 40 and 60% of the people never get married. And of those who get married or who have a couple, I mean, family breakup has rates of maybe between, again, 40 and 60%. And this has a lot of implications in birth rates and in rural depopulation. So this is something that is very important. It's very important as well to make people aware that they have to start to try having children earlier in life when they are younger. Many people start too late when there are problems of physical fertility for women and for men. Men very often as well are the part of the couple who brings the infertility to the couple, but women maybe a little bit more, even more frequently, because we are too old when we start. And in general, society has to be much more pro-family and pro-children. In the past, parents had prestige for being parents. Mothers of large families had a lot of prestige, not anymore, at least in countries like Spain. Some people even despise them. So these things that are about values, they are not about money. They're about prestige or not prestige, about a society that is really telling their children, but that when they are older, then they are adults, they should make families and have children. This is one type of society. Other type of society, and this is current society, doesn't care at all about this. And what is the result? The result is an Europe that has native Europe is shrinking in population. Then the next thing that politicians say is that we can cover this with foreign immigration, and this is only a temporary part-time solution. It doesn't cover everything. It doesn't cover the problem of loneliness, because one of the main problems of a society with few kids and a lot of divorce and few marriages is loneliness. More and more people are alone, live alone, and this is very sad, no? So this cannot be covered with immigrants. I cannot have an immigrant for being my child. There are a few international adoptions, but very few. When I am old, I cannot have an immigrant to be my child to take care of me. And so the immigration is only a partial solution, not complete. We need more children. We need more babies for both the full countries and rural areas. And otherwise, we will be in trouble. We are already started to be in trouble. Our societies are older than ever. And aging of societies is mostly created by the lack of young people, not because life expectancy is higher. This creates a part of the issue, but the bulk of the problem is due to the fact that there are few children and few young people. And this is mostly, Raul, what I wanted to say. Of course, I'm open to questions, and thank you very much for this opportunity.
Thank you very much, Alejandro. Yes, it's very important because really loneliness is the new epidemic in all Europe, and it's a topic more and more important in the public policies now. And then you have to do the opposite to allow people to have the families, the children they would like to have, and to create this social network of solidarity, which is the family. Thank you very much.
You cannot cover with immigration. And by the way, even in rural areas, immigrants prefer urban areas. In Spain, they say, let's fill with immigrants rural areas. No, immigrants come to another country. It's easier for them to survive and to thrive in the cities than in the rural areas.
Thank you very much for your speech and your collaboration in this Congress. And now I would like to introduce you Anna Bebel. Anna Bebel is a professor at the Wroclaw University of Economic and Business, and she's going to talk about a very interesting topic for us and a good local strategy to support families, which are the local family cards, tools to enhance family well-being. Dzień dobry, and thank you very much to be with us, Anna.
Good morning. Thank you for your invitation and the opportunity to talk about large family card, because although the topic of my presentation sounds like this, local family cards, I'm To be precise, I'm going to talk about local large family cards because here in Poland we have such programs, and these were the objects of my survey. So those programs are aimed at families with at least 3 children. The large family card is a general term used for different programs that are addressed at families with many children. And such programs can be launched at national, regional, and municipal level. The idea behind the program is to create a positive image of a large family and to support its functioning, development, and well-being. It is not a new idea. The first such program was launched in France in 1921 at the national level, and it is still functioning. There are also similar programs in Austria, Italy, Spain, Germany, or Hungary. In Poland, we have both national, regional, and local cards, and there are many similarities but also differences between them. But today I would like to focus on oh no, not this one, on the local ones. In the slide, we can see examples of such cards. In the middle, there is the national one, and the rest are local ones. The program is implemented by issuing cards that entitle their users to a number of discounts or free access, for example, to swimming pools, to the cinema. So generally speaking, objects related to culture, education, sport, recreation, and health, or even public transport, utility charges, and preferences in access and lower fees for nurseries, kindergartens, and schools. There is also a whole range of offers issued by private enterprises, discounts in restaurants, groceries, hairdressers, and so on. And what is important, cards are issued regardless of the income of the family. The card is available to families with children up to the age of 18 or longer if they are still learning, up to 24, 25, or even 26, depending on the program. Most often, each family member receives their own card. In some programs, more preferences are given to families with at least 4 children, most often in the form of parallel 3+ and 4+ cards, like, for example, in Grodzisk Mazowiecki or Łomianki. The offer of the programs varies considerably depending on the municipality. Some offer only discounts, others also free admission for large families. Also within a given program, the offer changes over time, depending on the expectations of families or the possibilities of a given municipality. The most common program proposals are primarily sports and recreational, including swimming pools, ice rinks, gyms, tennis courts, sport activities, zoos, camps, cultural offers, theaters, operas, museums, cinemas, cultural centers, concert, and so on. Educational offer, additional activities like language courses, libraries, bookstores, public transport, childcare, for example, lower fees for nurseries, kindergartens, or admission preferences, but also lower fees for waste disposal, parking lots, etc. Health offer like pharmacies, rehabilitation, sanatoriums, vaccinations, and of course offers of private entities, shops like grocery, clothing, footwear, stationery, but also restaurants, guest house or services, hairdressing, cosmetics, photocopying, driving license courses, and or insurance. Local governments are responsible for the implementation of programs, at least those local ones, and the programs are operated mainly by municipal offices and municipal social welfare centers. But you can also find programs coordinated by non-governmental organizations like in Toruń. Occasionally, several institutions cooperate in the implementation of the program, like in Gdańsk, the Municipal Family Support Center, the Public Transport Authority, and the Large Families Association Triplas cooperates within the program. Sometimes the program is serviced by one or more employees delegated only to this task. We have such situation in Wrocław. Sometimes it is an additional activity of a given department or employee, especially in small towns. And some programs operate on the basis of agreements between municipalities, for example, Żabia Wola and Grodzisk Mazowiecki. Some local government authorities, apart from implementing the program in their town or city, also actively promote the development of this initiative and its extension to new local governments, for example, by participating in conferences, meetings, or local government officials. Others, on the other hand, don't allow the development of the program or even its creation. We had such problem, for example, in Maków Podhalański. Non-governmental organization, especially the Large Families the Large Families Association, Triplas, also play a huge role in the creation and implementation of programs. The success of cooperation with organizations depends to a large extent on the favorable attitude of the authorities. Examples of effective and lasting cooperation are programs in Gdańsk and Grodzisk Mazowiecki. In 2013 and 2014, I researched 15 such programs. Finally, more than 1,300 respondents from different cities and towns took part in the questionnaire survey, and 2 focus group interviews in 5 cities were carried out. I wanted to check how those programs are supporting families and what can be done to improve them. It is important to notice, however, that at the time when I was doing my research, there were very few programs supporting large families, or rather families with children in general. Now we have a program called Family 500 Plus, which means that every family gets 500 zlotys every month per every underage child. We have free school course books and so on. So the situation of large families and families in general is now significantly different than it used to be. But let me present just the main results arising from my research. The research has shown that families are very interested in the program and its further development. Families were very eager to take part in the questionnaire survey and participate in focus groups. Their experience in using the programs was very valuable and allowed us to capture the main advantages and shortcomings of the programs. Most respondents, over 2 in 3, were satisfied or very satisfied with the participation in the Large Family Card program. Even more, believed that participation in the program had a rather favorable or strongly favorable influence on their family. The situation was slightly different, however, when we were asking them about the actual use of the program offer. The respondents who were asked to specify the frequency of using the card rarely pointed out to the offer from which they would benefit at least once a week, mostly the swimming pool and public transport. What is more, in many cities, there were no healthcare services, no cinemas, no public transport, or even theater and museums in the offer. Other facilities were in fact not very attractive or varied, or still too expensive to use more often than a few times a year. The poor offer of the program was also confirmed by other questions. Among the offers available in the programs, undoubtedly the most wanted and frequently used by families were those connected with sports and recreation, swimming pools, gyms, and so on, with culture and with public transport, using public transport for free or at 50% discount. Offers of this type were especially important for large families. Without the card, many of them would have to give up their activity in those areas due to financial barriers. These offers made it possible to organize the children's free time in an active and valuable way, and they positively influenced the integration of the family. For example, joint weekend trips to the swimming pool, zoo, and so on. Offers in the area of education and health were rated much lower, and this was probably due to the fact that almost all the programs lacked such proposals, or they were completely inadequate or unattractive for the respondents. Families also appreciated the fact that every member received their own card, because they knew that in some programs there was only one card for the whole family. Respondents declared their willingness to use most of the potential offers and services that might be found in the new program offer. The most desirable ones were those that provided a better quality of life for the children and help with everyday expenses, such as payment for rent and utilities. And equally popular, and also the most popular so far, were cultural and sports events. When talking about weaknesses, I will try to do it shortly. The Polish social assistance centers are quite familiar with the problems of families and show much greater sensitivity and understanding for families and the program they implement. Such places, however, evoke some negative associations because many people connect them with pathology and different social problems. And the implementation of the program by such centers is a source or was a source of humiliation for many families. So it was often the reason for resignation from the participation in the program. On the other hand, implementation in municipal offices, although devoid of negative connotations, is associated with assigning the obligations related to the implementation of the program to employees who don't know the specificity and needs of large families. Therefore, the success of the program depends on, to a large extent, on the involvement of those coordinating it. The solution emerging in Grodzisk Mazowiecki and Gdańsk constitute a compromise in this respect. The programs were or are still supervised by social welfare centers, but applications for cards and their collection are made in another institution, municipal office in Grodzisk and the public transport authority in Gdańsk. More examples of good practices and most common failures you can see in this slide. But to make a long story short, the very idea of introducing the large family card in many Polish cities should be considered successful. However, it is difficult to clearly assess the functioning of individual programs. Apart from its positive impact on the diversification of sports and recreation activities, it played rather a small role in supporting the condition of the family. Neither healthcare nor the educational aspect was attractive enough to interest the family. The basic reason for the low quality of programs was primarily the lack of proper communication and knowledge about real problems affecting large families. In fact, as some focus group statements go, there is a lack of communication between program coordinators and recipients. Our expectations and needs are examined in a poor way, or no one asks us whether we are satisfied or not, or there is virtually no contact between us and the office. We don't know to whom and how to convey our needs and comments. The solution to the problem identified above, which is used in certain cities, could be the inclusion into the program of non-profit organizations representing the interests of families. Thus, there is a chance to properly understand the needs and adapt the offer to the recipients. Among the 15 programs examined, just 5 declared any cooperation with NGOs, and only in 2 of them this cooperation was stable and successful, and these programs received the highest ratings of respondents. And I think that would be all. Thank you very much for your attention, and feel free, of course, to ask questions.
Thank you very much, Dr. Bebel, for this very complete explanation about the experience of large family cars in Poland. I think it's very useful for our municipalities, and you know that we are also working to start a European large family car. Then the experience in Poland is very useful for us. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Goodbye.
And now I would like to welcome Thomas Sutic. Thomas Sutic is a member of the cabinet of the Vice President for Demography and Democracy. It's the first time that in the European Commission we have this kind of vice presidency working on demography and democracy in Europe, and to talk about how can we manage these European recovery funds and the local family policies. And also, you know, that this vice presidency is now leading the discussion about the future of Europe. Thank you very much to be with us, Mr. Sutic, and the floor is yours.
Thank you very much for the invitation. It's a pleasure to be here with you. Also, let me pass on the regards of the Vice President. She's sorry that she could not participate today, but she did ask me to pass on these words. Again, thank you for the invitation to participate. And at the very beginning, I want to say that families form the core of our society. As a member of the cabinet of the European Commission Vice President, that, as you said, is charged with democracy and demography, we can certainly say that our portfolio focuses on the whole life cycle. We strive to balance our policy making for all family members, from the youngest to the oldest, and across all policies. We must make sure that we leave no one behind. We are committed to supporting the mutual recognition of family relations in the European Union. This will, of course, help support families and ensure that they thrive. Indeed, a thriving family helps create a thriving environment, economy, and society, including democracy, because they are all interdependent. The Commission continues supporting the well-being of all types of families. And we do this through a variety of measures on climate change, economic and social issues, including demographic change and intergenerational issues, which we have heard something about today already. To be clear, family policy and the definition of a family is a competence of member states. And we continue to support member states in their work on families through a number of policies. To name a few, the European Pillar of Social Rights and its action plan are a key tool for making a difference. In particular, on gender equality, on equal opportunities, work-life balance, childcare, and support to the children and on the long-term care. Other measures and instruments that directly or indirectly improve the well-being of families include youth employment support, skills agenda, as well as pay transparency, of course. And with these different policies, we aim at increased prosperity and therefore serenity for families. Firstly, serenity for families can be found in a work-life balance too. The possibility to balance work and family life is key for modern societies, where both women and men are professionally active and increasingly share care responsibilities. The directive on work-life balance for parents and carers, adopted in 2019, makes it easier for people to look after children or other family members and reconcile it with work. The directive establishes a universal entitlement of 10 days of paid paternity leave and at least 4 months of paid parental leave per parent. In addition, the directive promotes flexible working arrangements for parents and prohibits discrimination on the grounds of having used or requested them. The Commission is working together with the Member States to ensure a smooth transposition of this directive, and that should happen in August next year. Of course, this is just the beginning, because Member States can take additional measures that help underpin the work-life balance. We see evidence of businesses providing more benefits to their staff, and that has a greater work-life balance. This is part of their drive to attract and keep the best talent for their business. The European Child Guarantee, on the other hand, addresses specific aspects of child poverty and social exclusion. For every child at risk of poverty or social exclusion, the guarantee recommends Member States to provide free and effective access to early childhood education and care. Effective access should also be provided to adequate housing and healthy nutrition. We also heard a few things about those things today. This will help greatly the less affluent families and will directly benefit somewhere around 18 million children across the European Union. The Council unanimously adopted the European Child Guarantee recommendation on the 14th of June. And now Member States have until March 2022 to develop action plans for the implementation and appointing national child guarantee coordinators, which will also help. This brings me to the work on comprehensive European strategy on the rights of the child. Here we are talking about the rights of the most vulnerable children who have the right to the same protection and access to services. We look at services such as education, healthcare, and socio-economic support, and the necessary online protection for children in a digital age. This strategy forms the overarching framework of the Commission's support for children. When we support one child, we are in fact supporting their whole family. From a child's perspective, this offers hope. The strategy also has a global dimension, as the rights of the child are universal. In the European Commission, we care about each family member. And when it comes to the issue of care, in particular, long-term care, the number of people who are likely to be in need of long-term care is projected to substantially rise. From just over 30 million in 2019 to almost 40 million in 2050. This will lead to a drastic increase in demand for long-term care services. So as one of our follow-ups to our work on aging, on September 15th, President von der Leyen announced that the Commission will come forward with a new European care strategy to support men and women in finding the best care and the best life balance for them. This shows our commitment to support those in need of care as well as those who provide it. We cannot have a robust care strategy without looking at both in equal measure. For example, women are overrepresented as care providers. Of the 6.5 million people currently employed in this sector, 90% are women. Women also provide the bulk of informal care. Therefore, next to an initiative on the long-term care, the European care strategy will include the revision of the Barcelona targets on early childhood education and care. With this, we aim to further enhance women's labor market participation. Working with member states, we also want to encourage the participation of children in early childhood, education and care. This provides much needed support to families. Care concerns everyone, from the very young to the older members of our society, because at some stage in our lives, indeed from the day when we are born, we need someone to care for us. Those care needs may change, of course they do, throughout our lives. This is why we address all generations in the care strategy. We must create a nurturing environment for all kinds of families, whatever their composition or size. This approach transcends borders. In the words of President von der Leyen, if you are a parent in one country, you are a parent in every country. Families are also places where a variety of topics are discussed and deliberated. This is quite similar to the Conference on the Future of Europe. And here I call upon you to ensure that the voices of all families are heard in the conference. Today is not only the politicians who are shaping the future of the European Union. Through the Conference on the Future of Europe, we will bring citizens into the heart of policy making in the European Union to shape its future in the way they want to live and work. Each family is a precious and a unique environment, no matter how large or small they are, no matter their chosen composition. Each family has its own story to tell. So please organize events, upload your ideas on the multilingual digital platform of the Conference on the Future of Europe, and make your voice and the voices of families heard. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sutic. Very interesting ideas. Then we have to listen carefully. And of course, our organization is working on the future of Europe. And we know that large families, we are providing also the future of Europe, and which are our children. Then thank you very much again to be with us and for your work in this Vice Presidency for Democracy and Demography. Thank you. Then we have arrived at the end of this second European Congress of Family-Friendly Municipalities, and we have listened to a lot of very, very interesting topics. And this online Congress will be published, stay published on the YouTube channel of ELFAC, of the European Large Family Conference. You can enter on YouTube and you can find ELFAC. And there you can watch again all these interventions. You can take notes of the speeches we had previously, and we have listened about the challenges we have in this time of recovery, the challenges for families, the challenges for municipalities and families and municipalities together, how are impacting the policies during pandemic. We listened in Trento, for example, the impact on families of the policies, or we listened this experience in Paris to get these 15-minute cities in all Europe to make more livable our municipalities. We listen also from the Euro Energy Poverty Advisory Hub from the European Commission that how to fight against the energy poverty, which is affecting a lot families and specifically large families, and the needs of new policies for housing. Housing is fundamental, is crucial to start a family and to grow the family, and also how to link all this work of these family-friendly policies with the sustainable development goals. Most of them are directly related with the policies which our municipalities are developing to support families, and also the local family cars are a very useful tool to introduce benefits and to be used by families to get better wellness for families with children. And of course, the discussion of future of Europe. We have to be there, and the voice of families, on all citizens, but also large families, and the families need to be heard to build this more family-friendly Europe we want to build together. Then I would like to give the floor at the end to Regina Maroncelli, the President of the European Large Families Confederation and the European Network of Family-Friendly Municipalities, only to say goodbye and for waiting for the next event of the network.
Yes. Okay, thank you. Just let me thank you, Raul, for the wonderful broadcast you organized. You did a very good job. Let me thank all our speakers. They were so good. We are now full of ideas and new perspectives. So I think we will have a lot of stuff to work on. I hope our municipalities had thought food for them, and this is our goal. This is our ambition. The next big event for the European Network of Family-Friendly Municipality will be in this spring in the convention, which will bring good practices and policies and more practical tools to work on family-friendly policies. So thank you, everybody, for listening, for working for families, and for building a better future for everybody. Thank you. Bye-bye.